Hello and welcome to this episode of the 90s Week by Week. I'm your host Brandon, coming at you from Grubby's Private Bar. On this week, we'll be discussing the dates February the 11th through the 17th in the year 1990. First, we'll go over the events and pop culture of the week, and then I'll bring on a guest to discuss their unique memories and experiences with this time frame. Without further ado, let's get into it. The top song for every day this week was Opposites Attract by Paula Abdul. The top 10 for this week were number 10, We Can't Go Wrong by the Cover Girls. Number 9 was Tell Me Why by Exposé. Number 8, Downtown Train by Rod Stewart. Number 7, All or Nothing by Milli Vanilli. Number 6 was What Kind of Man Would I Be by Chicago. Number 5 was Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith. Number 4 was Dangerous by Roxette. Number 3, Escapade by Janet Jackson. Number 2, Two to Make It Right by Seduction. And number 1, Opposites Attract by Paula Abdul. The top country song this week was On Second Thought by Eddie Rabbitt, and the top rap song was Expression by Salt-N-Pepa. On February the 13th this week, the album Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em by MC Hammer was released. The top movie for each day this week was February the 11th, Hard to Kill, and then from February the 12th to the 17th, Driving Miss Daisy claimed the top spot. The top 5 for this week were number 5, Born on the 4th of July, number 4, Madhouse, number 3, Revenge, number 2, Hard to Kill, and number 1, Driving Miss Daisy. In television, the top 10 for this week were number 10, The Wonder Years with the title St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Number 9 was Empty Nest with the titles Timing and It Happened 2 Nights, 4 Costume Changes. Number 8, The Golden Girls, An Illegitimate Concern in 72 Hours. Number 7 was Roseanne, I'm Hungry. Number 6 was America's Funniest Home Videos. Number 5 was The Cosby Show Outtakes. Number 4 was A Different World with the title A World Alike. Number 3 was Blind Faith Part 2, an NBC miniseries. Number 2 was Cheers with the title Severe Crane Damage. And number 1 was The Cosby Show with the title Mr. Sandman. The cover of TV Guide this week was pink with the words, A Valentine Guide to TV Romance in the top right corner. 3 couples were scattered around the front with the big red heart in the background, and the subtitles, The Hottest Couples and the Most Sizzling Shows to the right. At the bottom it said, Plus, How TV Can Add Spice to Your Life. On Saturday Night Live this week, Tom Hanks was the host and Aerosmith was the musical guest. Among the skits, Aerosmith makes an appearance on Wayne's World and sings the theme with him. On The Simpsons this week, Lisa finds herself sad with little to no understanding from anyone at school or in her family. Eventually, she runs into a local jazz performer who helps her learn to vent her depression through music. The title was Moaning Lisa. On the Arsenio Hall show this week, the February 12th episode had Patrick Stewart and Regina Bell. On February the 13th, Sally Kirkland and Kadeem Hardison were guests, while Warrant was the musical guest. On February the 14th, Rue McClanahan and KT Olsen were on. On February the 14th, Kirstie Alley, Whoopi Goldberg, and Alice Walker were all guests, while the Smithereens were the musical performers. And then on February the 16th, Malcolm Forbes was on with Faith Ford and Kool Moe Dee. The episode of Married with Children this week was titled You Gotta Know When to Hold Them, Part 1, and in it, Peggy takes Marcy to Las Vegas to make her feel better about getting left by Steve. When they get there, they end up quickly losing all of their money, but shortly after, Al gets notified that his credit card has been maxed out. On the February 14th episode of Quantum Leap titled Freedom, Sam jumps into the body of a young Native American who is attempting to outrun the law with his grandfather so that he can die on land that is important to him rather than in a nursing home or a jail cell. The title of Star Trek The Next Generation this week was A Matter of Perspective. Commander Riker goes to check on a scientist's progress, and when the station he's on blows up as soon as he transports off of it, he finds himself the primary suspect in the scientist's murder. After several holodeck recreations based on witness accounts, new evidence helps exonerate him. On Days of Our Lives this week, Jack pushes Jennifer away again, and Kayla starts trial for murder. Patch wants her to go on the run with him, but she refuses. While on the stand, Kayla goes into labor. Mike takes April to the Caribbean, and she accepts his marriage proposal. In sports, on February the 11th, the NBA All-Star Game is held at the Miami Arena. The East beat the West 130 to 113. Magic Johnson was the MVP, The dunk contest winner was Dominique Wilkins, and the three-point contest winner was Craig Hodges. Also on February the 11th, Buster Douglas KOs Mike Tyson in the 10th round to win the World Heavyweight Boxing title. The issue of Sports Illustrated this week was the swimsuit edition, and on the cover was the actress Judith Masco with the words, "Beauty and the Beach, Judith Masco and the Grenadines." The February 12th issue of the Sporting News said, "What Lies Ahead" at the top, and in exclusive Q&A sessions, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue and Faye Vincent. In the middle were pictures of both men. At the very bottom it said, "Senior Pro Baseball, was it a success?" and "Unusual change of heart for MISL's #1 pick." The cover of the February issue of 17 magazine had a woman in shades and a red and white scarf and said, "Red Hot Looks" in bold red letters to the left with the subtitles, "Fashion with Passion," "Beauty Advice, Take It From a Pro," "How to Kiss," "A Valentine for You," "Michael Hutchence Talks," and plus Milli Vanilli Erasure underneath it. The top book for each day this week was Devices and Desires by P.D. James. Also on February 11th this week, Nelson Mandela is released after 27 years in prison. On the cover of the February 12th issue of Time magazine was a zoomed-in picture of scores of military people with the words, "Scaling Down Defense, How to Really Cut Military Costs" across the middle. On the cover of the February 12th issue of People magazine was a large picture of Ava Gardner to the right with the words, "Ava Gardner, 1922 to 1990" to the left over bold yellow letters that said, "The Last Goddess." Underneath it said, "She was the most irresistible woman in Hollywood. Ravishing, fiery, and dangerous. She had a smoldering beauty that awed even Liz Taylor, and sex appeal that led her into stormy marriages and affairs with millionaires and matadors. This is the story of her tempestuous life." Intermingled were several pictures of her with various men. The February 16th issue of Entertainment Weekly was the first one ever and featured a large close-up of Katie Lang on the right side. On the same side were the words, "Beyond the Grammys" in a circle. Beneath, it said, "In today's divisive music scene, Nina Cherry and Katie Lang rise above the rest by stirring up smart new sounds." And in even bigger letters, the Mixmasters. Down the left side of the cover were the subtitles, "Movies, Winter Films, The Big Weep," "Print, Hip Huggers, The Sterns in the 60s," "Kids, New Zorro, Hero or Zero," "Video, Stone Saga, No Satisfaction," and "TV, Compelling Kennedys." And now that we've gone over pop culture and the events of this week in February of 1990, let's bring on our guest. With me today is Tara Rieman. Tara is from my hometown. We have a history together in the 90s, not this part of the 90s, but later in the 90s. So I'm excited to have Tara. Thank you, Tara, for coming by today.
Well, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I'm going to start off with the same question I ask everybody. What were you potentially doing on a February night or day even in 1990?
February in 1990 in 6th grade. I would have been 11 and that was 6th grade. We probably would have been going to basketball games.
Like a high school varsity
high school basketball game. Yeah, we're probably getting ready for sectional. But I remember like putting pom-poms in my hair and dressing up for 6th grade. And I know we were ramping up for sectional during that time. So a lot of renting movies, watching movies in our parents' living rooms, drinking a lot of Mountain Dew and eating a lot of nacho cheese Doritos.
Which movie from the top 5 are you potentially watching? Any
of
those?
Well, for me, I remember Driving Miss Daisy. I actually still make references to Driving Miss Daisy. I made one last week because of anybody who like gets in the back seat, like my kids or my kids' friends, or if somebody gets out of the front seat and I'm in front, I'll always like impersonate Morgan Freeman and make a Miss Daisy reference, and in my head that song plays. So I was a big Driving Miss Daisy fan. Born on the 4th of July, I really liked that movie, but it's one of those you can only watch once. Yeah. I can't handle it. We were learning a lot about Vietnam through the movies around that time.
And Vietnam was a hot topic in movies.
Right.
A lot of movies made about it.
Like Platoon was a few years before that, which we just watched in our house a couple weeks ago. And it's funny how you remember things. I remembered the scene where Willem Dafoe's like shot by, and they're pulling away in the helicopter. I always thought that was the last scene of the movie. No, it's not. It's really towards the beginning because the rest of the movie kind of sets it up. But we didn't really experience the Vietnam War because we hadn't been born yet. So, but we were hearing a lot about it. So
what you just pointed out about remembering that movie the way you did is one of the things I love about doing this, because it helps me reconcile memories or make me realize how off I am, and it really messes with me how messed up I am on some of my memories and time frames with them.
Did you have that same feeling of like dread when you thought of Born on the 4th of July?
Yeah, I went and saw it with my dad, and it was just really unsettling because at that age you don't understand those kind of emotions and feelings, and for somebody to see what Tom Cruise is going through, you're just really, and there's just some really intense scenes like when he rips his, is it a catheter? He rips his catheter out or something.
Yeah,
kudos to him for stepping into that role.
Right.
All right, let's get this out of the way. My week 1 guest referenced slumber parties in January of 1990. You were both in the 6th grade at the same middle school at this time. Were you at those same slumber parties as my week 1 guest?
They were probably at my house, honestly.
Okay.
That was our big thing, was slumber parties. We had what we call like our girl group. I don't know. I kind of refer to it now as our prom picture group, like the girls that like kind of were friends, in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and you go to prom and you end up in the same picture with everybody, like your group of girls. So we were huge into slumber parties. We'd have them during football season. We'd have them throughout the year. I would say once every couple months we were having one, if not every month. My mom would throw them. She always would let us have slumber parties out at her house. And she lived in the country, kind of in the secret district. And there was this creepy church right next to my mom's house. And it had this red cross lit up. Like this had this cross with backlit in red. So we, of course, turned that into like a, satanic church in our head, right? And so what we would do is we would get wooden utensils, and we would go, after like it got dark, and we would go out and we would act like we were facing demons and ghosts and stuff like that, and we were going to protect ourselves with these wooden spoons and stuff. And I remember one year, me and one of my friends who still lives in Covington, and I still see, and our daughters graduated together and are still really good friends. We ended up getting lost in the woods in our pajamas, and legitimately were lost. And this is before cell phones. This is before GPS or anything like that. So we got lost, and I remember having to go over and under electric fences, and we were in cow pastures. And finally, we just had to stop, and I said, okay, listen. I said, I think that's trucks. I feel like that, okay, the interstate's to the left. So then I knew to head straight, because I was going to hit a road eventually, and we did. But it was 3 hours that we were missing.
Gosh.
And I don't even think some people knew we were gone, because it was from about 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I think some people had fallen asleep already. And I remember her being in her brand new Minnie Mouse pajamas. And she was like, devastated, because they were her brand new Minnie. And she was the best dresser in our class. And I was like, I ruined her Minnie Mouse pajamas. I felt so bad. But
this was a middle school experience?
This was a middle school experience, probably 6th grade.
Wow.
Maybe that one might have been 7th or 8th grade, but
we'll take it.
My parents would go and scare us. So we'd be sitting in there watching movies, and then my mom or my grandparents would come out and knock on the windows really loud. And one time they got one of the girls to actually lose control of their bladder when they scared them so bad. It was so bad.
Do you remember playing "We Didn't Start the Fire" on repeat? Is that a memory?
Yeah. And I still sing every single word to that song. You know how I learned it is there was a class in Danville that made a unit out of it, and a teacher had them write down all the lyrics to it, and then they had to study those and do reports on them in front of the class. Yeah. And then somebody from the commercial news wrote an article about it. So then they published all of the lyrics in the commercial news
around this time.
Like
when it came out?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would say maybe a couple months after it came out, just so people kind of knew when it was. So, but yeah. So then I was like, oh, that's what they're saying? Because I'm horrible with words to songs. I change them all the time.
Oh, me too.
The worst one recently, I found out I was saying something in English and it was in Spanish. And my husband, literally, I thought he was going to have a heart attack laughing. Like, it was hilarious. My daughter also is very good about it. She likes to change the words to "rock you like a hurricane" to "rock you like a herbivore." which isn't even a word.
Right.
So we are like known for just making up our own lyrics. So
Yeah, well, it takes too much effort to figure out what they really are. Like, just sing what you hear.
And it's hilarious when you find out.
Yeah. Did you watch Roseanne at all?
Yes.
I love Darlene. Who's your favorite character?
Darlene is my little sister. I mean, she is so much like my little sister. Just straight, direct. Like, I did not like Becky at all.
No, me either.
Couldn't stand her. So I didn't want to relate to her. But as the oldest child, maybe a little bit. But I just thought she was whiny and I just did not like that girl. I thought Jackie was hilarious. She was such a train wreck. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Jackie was kind of me in my 20s. Now that I look back, I'm like, good God. In my early 20s, I was totally Jackie. I was a complete train wreck. So I can relate to her. But I would say of all of the TV shows that had families, I really do think that my husband and I probably relate to Roseanne and Dan more than anybody, because it's just raw. It's just how families talk to each other. Mm-hmm. We're sarcastic. We're joking.
I said that to somebody recently. I didn't watch Roseanne back then, and I think it was because DJ. I think DJ ruined it for me.
Probably.
But watching it now, I'm like, yeah, like that's easily the most relatable show.
It was definitely the most down to earth. It didn't sugarcoat anything. I remember seeing her bedroom, and her bed was never made. And I was like, yeah, that's real life, like, I don't know.
Stuff on the counter and on the
Yes,
table.
There's always stuff on the counter. They never knew what was, they were always cooking something that came from a box. I was like, yes, that's, because you're like running around. Like, our lives are a little different. Nowadays, everything's athletics and you have to, do travel and all that stuff to play and all that. So it wasn't like that back then. So I think there was a lot more at-home time when we were younger. Mm-hmm. And so you had time, for the summer parties, and you had time for the, to be around your parents more and that type of thing, not just in a car. So it was just a different feel. One
of my other guests brought that point up too about travel. It probably doesn't get enough credit for changing the way life is now.
Right.
We all look at the internet and cell phones and things, but travel balls probably just,
I'm telling you,
flying under the radar. There's a culprit.
It's a completely different lifestyle than what we lived. I didn't even know it existed when I was growing up.
No.
And I was like, what? Like, and you used to just play in the season that you played, and now it's like, if you're not playing year round or touching that sport year round, then everyone else is going around you. I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Milli Vanilli, all or nothing?
All.
I
love Milli Vanilli.
I don't know that I've met somebody yet that hasn't. There's a lot of closet Milli Vanilli fans.
Yes.
Were you watching WWF back then?
I definitely. The cartoon. I loved the cartoon. That was one of my favorite cartoons. Awesome. Yeah, I think I even had a Hulk Hogan figure.
The big
ones.
rubbery
Yes, he was rubbery.
Like
yes. I think I had him. Why? Why would I have him?
I don't know.
That's
he's
weird.
Awesome. What's more American than 1980s, 90s Hulk Hogan? Was Hogan your guy then?
Yes.
If you were watching?
Yes. I also liked Andre the Giant, though. Mm-hmm. I have a thing for big guys, so I'll admit it. I wasn't attracted to Andre the Giant, but I've always thought, like, size. I've just always liked the size thing. I don't know.
I don't remember hearing the Expose song, Tell Me Why, that was in the top 10 this week, and I even kind of actually liked Expose.
I did too.
Do you remember that song, Tell Me Why?
I don't remember that song.
Is there any other songs in the top 10 music that you don't remember besides that?
I don't remember We Can't Go Wrong.
I don't either.
Oh, what kind of man I would be? That is one of my favorites. Chicago and REO. I love Janie's Got a Gun. I can probably sing most of the words to all of these, but...
With your own botched lyrics?
Yes. 2 to Make It Right. I might know that if I heard it, but I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember it.
You would if you heard it.
I would?
Yeah.
And then We Can't Go Wrong and Tell Me Why. Those are 3 that I can't I can't sing like every word to it. Janie's Got a Gun. That's a dark ass song. That is a dark song.
Yeah, I delved deep into that with Combo too. Like, one of those things that at the time, at that age, you just don't understand the gravity of it.
Right. Paula Abdul. I saw her in concert. It was Paula Abdul and Color Me Bad.
In 1990?
They played at Market Square Arena. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they played at Market Square Arena, and we were sitting not in the back row, but but literally there was one row behind us, and you could touch the thing. And it's me and my girlfriend, and here we're sitting there next to her mother. Her mother took us, and it's Color Me Bad with like, I want to sex you up. And I didn't even think to be embarrassed at the time, But we look over, and there she is, sitting there with her book and a book light reading while we're at the Paula Abdul concert.
What a bill.
It was amazing.
Color Me Bad and Paula Abdul.
I always thought, that's awesome. Like, I know she doesn't like the music. She didn't really want to be there, but she was like, I'll take you girls, you know?
Yeah.
So she's always been so cool.
That's awesome. I am jealous that you have that on your like list of people you've seen.
Yeah.
What was Paula Abdul's stage show like? Was it anything?
It was pretty far away, but it was really, she did tons of dancing because she was a choreographer. And then the 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, they brought out a cat, like that, like Chester Cheeto looking guy, you know, that was the video in a full mascot suit. What? And he danced with her on stage for that song. And that's the one thing I'll always remember.
Yeah, what a great memory. I'm so jealous. You have no idea how jealous I am. Yeah, I did see the New Kids, and I've got that to my credit, but I think I'd rather be able to say I saw Paula Abdul and Color Me Bad. I've watched every episode of The Golden Girls. It corresponded with each episode of the 90s week by week that I've done so far in preparation. One thing that sticks out to me is the vivid and unique colors and designs that they wear, which was indicative of the early 90s. If you could, are you trading the fashion of today for the fashion of 1990?
I'm not trading. I am not a color person. I'm wearing blue right now, and this is about as colorful as I get. I tend to be more earth tones, grays, blacks, but I definitely rock some tights and leg warmers at the time.
Well, that leads to my next question, which is, speaking of fashion, the cover of 17 magazine said fashion with a passion. What fashion were you passionate about in 1990?
Stirrup pants with long sweaters over the butts.
Stirrup pants were definitely a thing. But I remember them being a thing like in the 93, 92, they were a thing in 90, yes. 89, 90?
They were a thing for a while because in 3rd grade, I got sent home from school by a substitute teacher. So she was a retired teacher. She came back and substituted, and we were all scared to death of her. Okay, and you know who she is. Probably.
Oh yes, I do now.
Yes,
you said scared to death. I know exactly who you're talking about.
And I had a pair of white stirrup pants on, and a long sweater that went almost to my knees. She came up to me. She pulled up my sweater and exposed panty lines. Okay, of these white things. She made me walk home to get changed.
Oh wow.
She sent a 3rd grader home by myself. Thank God I only lived a block from school. I walk in the door. My grandma's like, what are you doing home? And I was like bawling. I was like, she told me I had panty lines. And she just made me feel like a little right?
Also on The Golden Girls, Dorothy and Sophia dress up like Sonny and Cher for a contest they are entering.
I've seen every episode of The Golden Girls. Mm-hmm. Me and my college friends, we all chose a Golden Girl, and we literally would watch them every single day. I mean, that's what we did. We watched The Golden Girls. So sometimes I was 2 years older than those 3 girls that I was friends with. So sometimes I was the mean old lady, Sophia, and then other times I was Dorothy because I just kind of acted more like Dorothy anyway. And then we switched it out between the slutty and the dumb one. But, like, it depended on what, if somebody said something dumb, we're like, you're Rose today, you know? But then we were like, now you're usually Blanche. Like, come on.
Yeah. So you remember this episode
of
Sonny and Cher?
Absolutely.
If you're dressing up with whoever, your husband or whoever, as a pair from the pop culture people mentioned in this episode, who is it?
I know me and my husband would probably do Tom Hanks and Steven Tyler, so one of us could just walk around going Sybilis, 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 Sybilis. That's one of our favorite SNL episodes. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that was a Wayne's World episode.
It was.
It was.
Yeah, you happened to get this SNL.
I love Tom Hanks, so that would be funny. I think I could probably do a Marge Simpson voice now, and my husband, he's totally Homer, so sometimes.
So maybe Homer and Marge.
Yeah, maybe Homer and Marge for sure.
On the other episode of The Golden Girls this week, for some reason there was 2 episodes of Golden Girl this week. I haven't researched why that happened, but there was. On the other episode of The Golden Girls this week, the girls talk about having celebrities donate items to raise money for a cause. What item would you want from any celebrity mentioned in this episode?
I used to tape every single episode of Arsenio Hall on my VCR. Mm-hmm. My grandparents did not understand that one bit. They didn't, it was hilarious. For one thing, they couldn't set their VCR. So I had to do any of their setting their VCR to tape things, you know? So I would tape every single episode and then come back and watch it the next day. And I did not miss, I don't think, one episode of Arsenio Hall. So I would probably want something from Arsenio Hall.
Like a chair? Like
he had the best suits, like a red suit, or some of his rings that he had on, because he always had his fingers like this, and there was just something about Arsenio Hall. And now, I'll listen to him now, and I'm not nearly as enamored as I used to be, but there was just something about him back then. He just was so different and new and something I had never seen before, right? So...
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I include him instead of like David Letterman or Johnny Carson, because some people were just so perfect for the early 90s.
Right.
Arsenio Hall was the perfect person.
The dog pound. I mean...
Oh, yeah. He was innovative.
Yes.
He was great.
I mean, he got people on there. I mean, everybody knows the Bill Clinton playing the saxophone and stuff. That probably helped get him elected, and...
A lot of the most popular WWF clips, from around this time are from the Arsenio Hall show, like Ultimate Warrior going on there, or Macho Man.
He was definitely one of my favorite celebrities at this time. There's just something about him. I'm just drawn to him.
So you're taking an Arsenio Hall suit?
Yes, an Arsenio Hall suit.
All right, that's a good... I did not see that one coming.
Yeah.
Rose says she joined the 4-H club to be hip, like back in St. Olaf or whatever.
Sorry.
No, it was a good line. Were you in 4-H in 1990?
No, because I just know my limitations. And I remember living across from that cow pasture when I was at my mom's, and I always got bit by a horsefly on the face or something. The smells, and I'm just not cut out. I'm not cut out for farm living, honestly.
See, if I'd already started my 90s bingo card, having somebody on that was not in 4-H would be on it.
Yeah.
Because we're from Indiana, and how many people were not in 4-H?
I was not.
Which uncle's cooler, Jesse or Joey?
Jesse or Joey? Anyone who answers Joey...
Well, that'll be on my bingo card then.
Wow. Yeah. No. Joey with the cut it out crap and the puppets, and the coolest thing Joey did was he dated Alanis Morissette like during that time. Like that's the coolest thing he ever did.
Which is still a
Dave
mind-blowing
Coulier.
fact. But
the irony that his name's Coulier. No.
So
I am John Stamos all day long.
Even in 1990,
Absolutely.
when you would have cared more about being entertained than looks.
So this is interesting. I will always go for the funny guy over the looks.
But
no offense to husband or anything like that, right? But I find the funny more attractive than I do being attractive. Mm-hmm. Like I'd much rather be with somebody who's going to make me laugh for the next 50 years than somebody who looks good for 20 years and then turns into the rest of us that look like crap for the next 30 years, right? Like what's the point of that? But Dave Coulier was not funny.
Thank you.
He was not funny. Like, I liked Danny better than Coulier. I thought he was funny because, like, I can relate a little bit to, like, the clean freak guy. Like, I think that's funny. And him trying to be a dad, trying to be the mom and the dad because the mom had died, the Bambi thing, like in the Disney thing where all the moms die. Like, so it was a Full House. But, yeah, I liked Danny and Jesse. And those two ended up being, like, best friends. So.
I couldn't do it. I could not do Full House, and to this day I can't do it. I've watched a couple in preparation, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I just was not. Every time Uncle Joey was on, and he'd have that dumb chipmunk voice that he'd do, and I am very passionate about Uncle Joey. I did not know I had this inside of me.
That's awesome. I thought you were going to say you're very passionate about chipmunk noises, voices, and going to rail him for that. If it was this week that I was watching Full House, I swear Jesse said "have mercy" at least 4 times, and I'm like, oh my god. Dude, like, can we
no, see, I was able to tune him out of what he was saying and just look at him.
Yeah, so, that has to be what it was, because, I mean, how many times can you hear "have mercy"? Talk about laugh tracks. Like, there's no way that's funny the 4th time in one episode.
No. Now that I think about it, I'm starting to lose John Stamos. Like, oh, man, this isn't going well. I started out, and he was like 100%. Now I'm like, ugh. Now he's down to like 77 at this point.
Yeah, it happens.
To have mercies. Ugh,
yeah.
I agree.
Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him was released this week. Did you own it?
No.
Okay, then you're not going to know what the second best track was on it. Because I don't either.
I am embarrassed by the level of Bobby Brown fan I was, though, so.
The cover of TV Guide said, "A Valentine Guide to TV Romance. Who was your 1990s celebrity crush?" When you were in the 6th grade, who was your crush?
Probably Kevin Costner. Because he was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and everything I do for you, and stuff like that was out. So I was really into Kevin Costner. So it's weird that he's still like around and stuff and like really popular and like winning Golden Globes and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch those people come full circle, like him and Jason Bateman. And
yes.
I mean, neat.
I was never a big like Tiger Beat type person. I don't remember having any magazines posted to my walls. If I did, it was very, very little.
The very first issue of Entertainment Weekly ever hit the stands this week.
Which I had a subscription to.
Did you?
Yes.
So if I asked you which one you're reading, Entertainment Weekly or People, the answer's
Entertainment Weekly. I don't know how. I think my grandma identified that I was a pop culture person. Like I loved like anything with entertainment, music, movies, all that type of stuff. So I feel like it might have been a Christmas gift along with Nintendo Power magazine.
Magazine subscriptions are something I'm mourn the loss of deeply.
Yes.
Because we don't need them anymore.
Yes.
But it'll never be anything like,
right.
You know.
I'm starting to appreciate some of the 90s stuff that was just overplayed crap at the time to me. And now I'll hear them and I'll get a little nostalgic and I'm just be excited that I know it. Unlike some of the stuff I don't know. I'm like, I know this song even though I've heard it 10,000 times and I hate it. Every once in a while, they'll play something and I'll be like, I can't. I've heard this so many, like 50,000 times because you have to explain to them, we only had radio and MTV and VH1. We didn't have other avenues, you know, like we could only watch cartoons on Saturday mornings. We didn't have Nickelodeon necessarily or Disney Channel or something like that. So it was like appointment TV if you're going to watch cartoons. We barely had VCRs, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, by that point, I guess we probably did, but...
Patch and Kayla or Jack and Jennifer?
Oh, God. That is hard because I originally was Bo and Hope. So Patch and Kayla. You know, I liked Jack and Jennifer a lot because they were fun and a little cornier and Jack had a sense of humor. And I was never really attracted to Patch. He was a little hard for me.
Why he had like a dagger tattoo?
He literally had a patch. Kayla was just she was kind of mousy and like you could never get her to like say what she really wanted to say. It was almost like she was like being held prisoner and they took her to a bank and said you have to get money out without, telling anybody you're getting money out. That's how Kayla's whole disposition was, right?
Yes.
Like you can't tell the teller you're a hostage,
yes.
But you got to get the money out. But you want to,
You can't tell them the whole truth because you're protecting them
yes.
from the truth.
Yes, yeah. Kind of like Sleeping with the Enemy where he's like, hey, you want to come over? And she's like, no, I'm just tired right now. And she's like trying.
But she's not.
Yeah, and then he busts through the door, and like.
Because her eyes are like this big while she's saying on her end that she's tired.
Yes, and she's got like tears right on the, that's Kayla. But Jennifer, they were also a little later. Like Jennifer, and it feels like that was kind of what it was like.
So I'm finding clips on YouTube of it, and I just refresh myself a little bit. I don't remember it either. I did like Days. Yes. I don't know if I did at this time. I think I was a little bit later. I was more Bo and Billy than Bo and Hope.
My mom would tape 3 soap operas. It was Guiding Light, Another World, and Days of Our Lives. And so I would go out there, and she wouldn't be able to watch them during the week because she worked during the week. So on Friday nights when I went out there, we would watch 5 days, so 15 episodes of soaps on Fridays nights and Saturday nights. And she would fast forward, and if it was a storyline she didn't like, she would just fast forward through it. And so sometimes I wouldn't know what was going on. I'd be like, well, what's going on with that? And I'd be mad that she's like, she's like, oh, they're stupid. Don't worry about it. This, and this. And I was like, wow, you just saved us 20 minutes of our lives.
So around this time, what's happening on Days is Kayla was kidnapped by Victor.
Okay.
And
Jennifer Aniston's father in real life.
Yes. And he wants a key or something in exchange for Kayla. So Jack's trying to help Patch get her back.
Okay.
Like Jennifer, he's trying to keep it from Jennifer and keep her at arm's length. And then they get Kayla, they give him the key, and Patch and Kayla are getting married, but then she's implicated in a murder because of a recording Victor has, where she's getting aggressive with the girl that ends up dying, so it sounds like she's,
And Kayla can't kill anybody.
She's shady, but she's not malicious.
Right.
You would probably never get cheated on, but you would always wonder if you were.
Yes.
If you were with her.
That's a great,
But Patch is just too confident. Like, he's Patch. What's he got to worry about?
Right.
He supposed to protect her.
And Jack was always a little more like, all over the place and unsure and like scatterbrain, and I just I don't know.
Yeah, he's always like got this look, you know.
Yes.
Jennifer's trying to get like this close to him, and he's like nervous.
Right,
and
right.
He's still got teen angst at that age.
Yes, they were pretty young. I mean, I remember Jennifer was pretty young in that. The girl who played Jennifer. So, and she had that like rounder face. I remember her face was, she had perfect skin. I feel like I didn't relate to her when it came to like that type of thing, but because of her youth and because I was only in 6th grade, I felt like I related more to her than I related more to like the seasoned Kayla and Patch, you know?
Yeah.
But I felt like they were my aunt and uncle. Like by that point, they were family members by that point.
What soap are you on in 1990, and what's your character doing?
I mean, just from a nostalgic point of view, I feel like I got to be on Days. I really, really did like Guiding Light, though.
You can put yourself
with Reva and Josh on. And the fact that I remember these is sad. Like I could put like way more important stuff into my brain than this.
We don't have a choice; it chooses us.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're who you are now, back in the soap in early 1990, which soap are you going into?
I'm going into Days of Our Lives, and I'm definitely not a villain, even though it'd be more fun. Just because I just hated Stefano and Victor so much that I would want to do something that would just get to Stefano, you know, to help everybody. So I'm probably foiling a Stefano plan before he gets to my favorite couples. And then I'm probably like pre-staging like romantic situations so I could finally see some happiness. Because there was so much angst. And I'm so frustrated with them just like, I used to think to myself, there is one day a year on this soap that everyone is with who they should be, everyone's happy, everybody, and I almost studied it like an encyclopedia or something, and I usually was one day a year you would actually have a blissful day of watching, and every other day of the year you were constantly having sexual frustration because your people weren't together, or Stefano was ruining something, or right when you got to that pinnacle, somebody's ex-lover would come back from 8 years before, they'd sign a new contract and get on the show, and you're like, why? You know?
Yeah.
So I definitely want to set up a happy scenario so my favorite people could have a day at the beach or go to the movie.
In their white shirt and jeans.
White shirt and jeans. Sandals.
Nice. Buster Douglas KO'd Mike Tyson this week. It really did seem like Tyson was on another level back then. Do you have any memories attached to him, like family watching a fight or kids talking about it at school?
Beating Mike Tyson Punch-Out multiple times? Yes.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Like you
Absolutely.
beat Mike Tyson himself?
Yes. On Mike Tyson Punch-Out. Once we figured out how to get by the tiger guy.
Great Tiger, I think was his name.
Something like that.
He would go like
yeah, and King Hippo, is that his name? The one that, you know, punch in the belly and it'd get like an X on his eyes and stuff, yeah. And Bald Bull. But yeah, I loved that game. I mean, it wasn't Contra, but I loved it. Contra was my favorite. Up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. So to me, Mike Tyson was the game.
There were some pretty iconic 90s stars on Arsenio Hall this week. Patrick Stewart, Whoopi Goldberg, Christy Alley. Which one of those three are you most likely staying up late on a school night to watch on Arsenio Hall in 1990?
Probably Whoopi Goldberg, because I was a huge Ghost fan. So we went to see Ghost as a girl group, and afterwards we went in, all of us, and bought the Unchained Melody individual cassette tape.
Cassette single.
We didn't even know I don't think we knew who the Righteous Brothers were at the time, but it's kind of like I didn't know, and this is sad, I didn't know who Queen was until Wayne's World came out. Mm-hmm. I knew Another One Bites the Dust, but I didn't know that they sang it. But Wayne's World opened my eyes up to like Queen. That's what Ghost did with the Righteous Brothers for me. But I remember all of us going to see Ghost together. And so I loved Whoopi Goldberg. So definitely her. So I was a huge Cheers fan. I always held a little bit of angst for Kirsty not being Diane, you know? Because I was I hated Diane, but I also cried like a baby when she left, like, because I wanted them to be together. It's the same as like Days. Like, just let them be together and be happy every once in a while. So, and then when she left to be Troop Beverly Hills 3 or something, I don't know. But Kirstie Alley was awesome too. But I didn't really have a big affection with her. I liked her in Look Who's Talking more than I did Cheers. Mm-hmm. To me, she was just the jerk that took over the bar, and Sam couldn't own it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't like her.
On Star Trek The Next Generation this week, various people recall an event differently. Have you ran into that with anyone regarding anything that happened in this time frame?
There were so little distractions, and all of us were looking at the same stuff at the same time, that I feel like most of the time our interpretations of that time, they're so similar. Because we didn't have 600 cable channels, we didn't have phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have any of that stuff. So we were listening to Hot 9 at 9 on WAZY, you know. So we all listened, and I've had people go, "How do you know every word to every song from that?" And I'm like, "We didn't have anything else to do. What are you talking about? Like,
right.
Like we really didn't. Like we were limited." So I'm like, well, how do I know how to play euchre and solitaire? You know, my kids don't really know how to play those. You know, like they have other stuff to do.
On Quantum Leap, Sam and Al lament over their favorite candy when they were children. What was your favorite candy bar in 1990?
I was a regular Hershey's.
Just plain Hershey's.
Jane Hershey's. I was getting into peanut butter Twix at that time. Hard to find back then. Mm-hmm. Could not find. You could find the caramel ones everywhere. When you found a peanut butter Twix, it was like finding gold.
Like Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
Yes, that's what it was like. Right.
You know, I think I liked Zeros back then, which I can't eat them now. I tried a couple years ago and it was like, oh.
Yeah.
But back then, yeah, it was all good.
Whatchamacallit. I was starting to get into Whatchamacallits at the time. So I was branching out a little bit from my Hershey, but I loved regular Hershey bars with popcorn. Mm-hmm. So.
On Married with Children, Peg wants to take a vacation. Did you take a vacation in 1990?
So we went to Clearwater that summer. I also went to Indiana Beach that summer. That was like our quick getaway thing, you know.
Go feed the carp popcorn.
Right. Indiana Beach was a big deal.
Well, yeah, you didn't travel back then like you do now.
No, you didn't. I mean, the speed limit was 55 miles an hour, so it took forever to get anywhere.
You didn't have GPS.
Nowadays, I work in Indianapolis. You didn't drive to Indianapolis, but like 3 times a year, and that was to pick somebody up from the airport that you hadn't seen for 5 years, you know? Yeah. Nowadays, like going to Indy, I go to Indy twice a week for, you know, travel baseball practice.
On SNL, Dennis Miller mentions the New Kids, new line of dolls, New Kids on the Block dolls. Mm-hmm. My grandma had a set of those for years and years. Did you have any of them?
Your grandma had them?
My grandma was a flea marketer, so
That's
she
awesome.
Collected all kinds of happy. I've still got all like her Happy Meal Barbies. So
I don't think I had the doll, but if it gets too popular, I tend to stray away. There's some things I can't help it, but it was just too popular. So then when I did start liking it, like I would listen to it on the radio, but I didn't want to have merchandise for some reason. I didn't want to go to I just felt like I was like, I don't know, just another person involved in it. And I don't know, I didn't feel special at all.
Well, you couldn't even like pick size like you could in Sync and Backstreet Boys. Like there was no calendar to the New Kids.
So what I did is I picked Donnie, and I had a giant button the size of a milk jug. And I was like, well, if I gotta be a New Kids person, then I'll go with the bad boy.
Right.
And
the one that's really hanging.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, and everyone was like, you like Donnie? Because everybody liked Jordan, you know, and everybody liked Joey. And I was like, I like Donnie. I remember us going to the mall in Terre Haute as a group, and I bought my Donnie button, and everyone's like, wow, I can't believe you like Donnie.
Donnie's the beau of the New Kids.
Really? Am I using New Kids to like stand apart? Like that's how I'm going to do this? That's sad.
No, that's great. On The Simpsons, the band teacher yells at Lisa. Were you in band?
I was, and I played saxophone like Lisa.
Did you?
We did.
Awesome. Did you ever get in trouble with the teacher?
So I was better at saxophone than I was like at sports. I'll admit that. Even though I still played sports. I was very good at the saxophone. And I was very good at it because I sat next to 2 of the most amazing saxophone players you could ever imagine in high school. One of them being one of your friends. And so I just followed them. And then eventually when they left, I knew how to do it, right? So I just kept up with them.
That could have been you instead of Bill Clinton on the Arsenio Hall show.
What do you think I liked? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love that. So yeah, I did. And I really loved it. And I got in trouble for switching instruments when we had a substitute. So we all switched instruments in middle school.
Like didn't tell the teacher.
We didn't tell the teacher. I think I played trumpet. Someone else played my horn. You weren't supposed to play each other's horns, right? Because that's like not sanitary, you know. And it is gross. I think I had to throw that reed away and like wash my mouthpiece. But I'm pretty sure that we switched things around. And he found out. How did he find out? I don't know. Probably because we sounded horrible. Because I didn't know how to play the trumpet. I actually taught myself in a couple days, like just how to play a couple songs one summer, like for the fun of it. That's a sad revelation that I did that for the fun of it. But I just wanted to see, because the trumpets were, the leads, and I was like, how hard is this? It's really freaking hard. A saxophone, you blow air into something, you put your fingers down, and so that note comes out. But no, I loved band, and I will say, as much as I miss my teams for basketball, and as much as I missed, I loved playing on the boys golf team and that type of thing. If I could go back and do anything from middle school and high school, I would be back in our symphonic band, because what a bunch of ridiculous people, who probably wouldn't even have been friends outside of this, coming together to make something amazing. How that man got us to sound like that, I will never know. But this would have been my first year. This would have been sixth grade. The other day, me and one of my best friends were literally talking about I think it was a 6th or 7th grade piece of music that we did, because one girl got in so much trouble because she couldn't play the solo to March of the Men of Harlech. Why I remember that, I will never know. I can play it to this day because no one did. It was like one of those random 7th grade pieces of music that some dude wrote that no one ever heard. But it started with an intro, and this girl could not do it. And they went through the line. I think he went through the line, and nobody could do it. By the end of it, everybody in band could do it to this day. And it's been 30 years. Wow. I mean, 33 years since this. And I can still play March to the Men of Harlech. Okay. Drum solo. I was a saxophone player, but that is how much he yelled at this girl. Oh my God. And he would take his baton and start to break it, and then it wouldn't break. I think he did break it once, but I don't know how that guy got us to do anything, but he was amazing.
Around this time, when I was in the 7th grade, we got in trouble for picking a time on the clock and then all dropping our books on the floor when the clock hit that. And it took this teacher 3 occurrences to realize what we were doing.
Well, you guys must have done it the year before us, because she knew exactly what we were doing when we did it. So, Yeah, she was on to us immediately. I mean, come on, you had to do anything to get through Pictocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
So
a succulent steak. If any listener or watcher, viewer, had a Pictocabulary notebook outside of the school that we went to, please message me and let me know, because I've wondered recently if that was just a Covington thing.
I think it was just a Covington in her class thing.
Yeah,
we didn't have it in any other classes.
I think so too. What a concept, a Pictocabulary notebook. Somebody please reach out to me.
And you have to line up to put it down. And
a succulent steak and a bland something. I always remember those two.
I would say every 2 or 3 years, some of us will be talking, and we'll go into California Achievement Test things. And that's when we do the Baloo is a bear, Yonker, Skulch is junk, Yonker is a young man. And then you had to remember those things, but for some reason, those were always the examples. And we talk about them. You're like, why do I remember that?
What a time. Yeah, she accomplished what she was trying to accomplish.
Right.
I know that steaks can be succulent.
How would you? I bet you every person that went to school at that time and had that teacher, if you said describe a steak, everyone would say succulent, because that's what goes with that word.
Yeah,
it's automatic.
Succulent steak.
And you were a year older.
Yeah.
We weren't in the same class.
Oh man, what was your cheers in the 6th grade?
Cheers.
Where did everyone hang out?
Benjamin's,
which is a family-owned mom and pop restaurant.
Yes. It was open 24 hours at the time, so it was open after games. So we went there all through high school. I was ranch cuts with nacho cheese and sour cream and hot chocolate, because they used the liquid marshmallows, on top. It had the marshmallow cream. Yeah. Best hot chocolate ever. And those mugs, those thick diner mugs, oh, that's so good.
Their biscuits and gravy was huge. Yes. A giant portion.
Yes.
On Cheers, Sam and Frasier unintentionally end up on a talk show that they are attending in support of Lilith, because she was promoting a book.
Yes.
If you're hosting a talk show in 1990, what 2 characters from the top 10 in television are you having on? And their fictional representation is what I mean by that.
Okay, so I loved Harry from Empty Nest. Loved him. And I always wanted, this is weird, I always wanted a neighbor that was like Charlie. Where they just came over and popped in, and then would go. I've always loved Harry. Harry was his name. He was the pediatrician that lived next door. That was a spinoff of Golden Girls. Empty Nest was. So Harry would definitely be on there. I mean, I loved Sam Malone. I mean, he was a baseball player, of course. I'm now realizing where all my sports stuff came from.
Sam Malone.
Yes.
So Harry and Sam.
Was there 3?
2, I think.
Harry and Sam.
Harry and Sam.
Yep.
Also on Cheers, Woody says he used to belong to a biker gang, and then he clarifies it was a bicycle gang. Did you have a bike in 1990, and what kind was it?
Yes. I think in 1990 I still might have had my blue banana seat bike.
Banana seat, let's go.
But I might have been right on the cusp of my pinkish purple Huffy 10-speed. So I was probably just getting ready to switch over if I hadn't already.
Did you ride the wheels off of it or just as needed?
Everywhere.
All right, Tara. Well, I think that's all I got for you.
Thanks for having me. This
No,
has been a
thank
lot of
you.
fun.
I hope you come back, especially in 93.
I will. Oh, yeah. I'll have a lot more memories from that, I think. So,
Awesome.
7th, 8th grade.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of the 90s Week by Week. You can find links to all of our social media on the90sweekbyweek.com. You can also be notified every time we drop a new episode by subscribing to our YouTube channel or following us on the various audio social media apps. Till next time.